Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hispanic Patriot Podcast, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret undisclosed location here in the heart of the great state of Colorado. My name is Nicholas Rasso, and without further ado, we present to you all our fearless patron, Hugo Chavez. Hey, give it up for the Hispanic Patriots, everybody!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another weekly edition of the Hispanic Patriot, and our location is getting even more secret by the day.
It is.
More on that later. All right, we got a good show for you tonight. We got to talk about a couple of current topics, and then our guest for tonight is Mr. Jason Mikesell, Gubernatorial Candidate for the state of Colorado, Sheriff out of Teller County, and we will have him on shortly. But first, we begin with the tragic story about Nancy Guthrie, the kidnapping that has captured the attention of the nation. Let's tune in real quick on one of the updates to see what's going on, because apparently there's an alleged ransom note.
Email was sent to a local of the ransom note demanding millions of dollars in Bitcoin for the return of Savannah Guthrie's mom. The email was sent to a local TV station here in Tucson and was quickly turned over to the sheriffs. It reportedly detailed what Nancy Guthrie was wearing when she was kidnapped and contained specific information about the interior of the house. The sheriff showed the letter to Savannah Guthrie and her siblings to get their take on whether it was authentic.
We'll research it, we'll dig into it, we'll see where it came from, try to learn as much as we can about it.
Sheriff Chris Nonas tells me if the note is a hoax, whoever is involved is in big trouble.
In their mind, they might think it's funny. It is far from funny. They may think that this is an opportunity. It is not an opportunity. Look, we will look at this note. We will track it down. If we find out you're the one who sent it, you are going to be arrested.
Criminologist Dr. Casey Jordan believes the kidnapper's motive may have something to do with Savannah herself.
They are going to be looking at anyone who has a beef, a grudge against the family, specifically Savannah Guthrie. And that is going to be an ocean of investigation because she is a public figure. Maybe it's somebody who is obsessed with her and has seen Nancy with her on television.
She also says more than one kidnapper may be involved. Meanwhile, authorities are shooting down a shocking report by TV journalist Ashley Banfield that investigators may be focusing on a family member, Savannah Guthrie's brother-in-law, Tommaso Cioni.
Families are always looked at first as well.
But the sheriff's department says in a statement, detectives have not identified a suspect or person of interest in this case. Sharing unverified accusations or false information is irresponsible and does not assist the investigation. Tommaso Cioni is married to Savannah's sister, Annie. According to the New York Times, Cioni dropped Nancy Guthrie off at her home last Saturday night and ensured she made it safely inside before leaving. He was the last family member to see her before she was abducted.
See a white female, 84 years of age, 5 medium build. Nancy has high blood pressure, pacemaker, and cardiac issues.
Savannah and other family members are staying in this house in Tucson, guarded by private security. Savannah and her family are making an appeal to the kidnapper to drop their mom off, no questions asked.
The quote is, whomever has her could drop her off at any fire station, any hospital, any grocery store, and there would be no questions asked.
And the White House tells Inside Edition that President Trump has reached out to Savannah. President Trump called and spoke with Savannah Guthrie today. The call followed Trump expressing sympathy for the Today Show host.
I think it's a terrible thing. I always got along very good with Savannah. Very unusual situation.
That's a really sad story. 84 years old and is involved in something like that. It's just tragic. I mean, I can't imagine someone taking an 84-year-old woman and abducting her like that. Apparently, she needs her medication, so we don't know what the circumstances are. But I just wanted to kind of touch base on that new story about the about the ransom note, which could or could not be authentic. But Also interesting that they're looking at the son-in-law. And somebody was talking about this could be an inside job. So,
well, as most crime is committed by people you know. That's very much a long-standing proving fact.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that the Hispanic Patriot Podcast sends its prayers and well wishes to the Guthrie family, and we hope for a good resolution in this matter, because this is just sad. I mean, I don't even know what kind of motivation there is, because apparently this is not quote a wealthy family. So the inside angle sounds like it might be more plausible than anything else. So.
Well, another famous kidnapping for American history, unfortunately. This is why we need law and order policies, folks.
Definitely, we need that.
And speaking of law and order policies,
yes, well, we've got our guest coming on here briefly, but before we move on to our interview, I wanted to touch base briefly on the recent resignation announcement of Vice Chair Richard Holstorf from the Colorado GOP. If you recall, Richard was elected after the first elected vice chair resigned last July, and Richard became the vice chair. But I know Richard. I've spoken to him a few times, and I know that things haven't been very pleasant for him as vice chair.
And he's let everyone know it now.
Unfortunately, I told him, I said, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. And he kind of chuckled a bit. He says, yeah, you were right, Hugo. And a lot of people were right. I mean, anybody with half a brain could see what was going to happen with that new scenario. And now, of course, the Secretary Russ is also on the warpath with Britta. And inside information told me that both Richard and Russ both approached Britta recently about resigning, and she just flat turned them down because, we know she's got a big ego, but this is ridiculous. She needs to go, and hopefully we will have a path to do that. There's some lawsuits pending, and there's also some movement afoot within the Central Committee to see if we can get her removed. So stay tuned for that development. We've got caucus coming up, and then we've got the assembly. And that's a good segue into our new guest. We have the Sheriff of Teller County, Mr. Jason Mikesell. I met him for the first time in person at the Saturday gubernatorial event in Elbert County, and nice gentleman. I liked what I heard from him on the stage. Had not, heard too much about what his plans were, but he seems to be on the right track. And he's definitely a law and order guy, as people will see here. So we have Jason in the studio now. We're going to bring Jason in and welcome him into the Hispanic Patriot Podcast.
Welcome, thank Jason. You for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you coming on and talking to our audience. And we have an audience on YouTube, but we've got almost 5,000 followers on X. So your message will get out there. And
for all of those new people who are joining for this interview, why don't you take a moment to subscribe and look up our other social medias wherever you're at, and make sure you do not miss a minute of Hispanic Patriot Podcast.
Absolutely. As we know, we've got a race going on for governor. There's a lot of jokes going on about the number of candidates in this race. Personally, I think that there's about 3 or 4 that are viable candidates, and I count Jason in that category. So I think that it's important that we talk to the candidates, see what they stand for, and let the voters decide. There's a lot of other minutia going on with certain candidates. We won't get into any of that, but we want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience. Jason, I almost did it again. I keep wanting to call you Mike.
I get it a lot.
So, Jason, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and give us a little bit of a background, where you came from, why you're jumping into this fray, and what you think you can accomplish. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Jason Mikesell, and I'm a third-generation Coloradoan. I got a granddaughter. It's now a fifth-generation Coloradoan. I grew up here. And to tell people about me a little bit is I'm actually a business owner. So I scaled a small company to a pretty large company. I and my wife diversified down into small businesses. So we own 2 restaurants here in Colorado. One is the Ute Lodge Bar and Grill in Woodland Park, Colorado. It's a steakhouse. And then we also own a 110 Reserve, which is an outdoor venue during the summers. And then we own apartments, and we own some commercial real estate. And then we have also built homes in Colorado. So I've done a lot of things. And on top of that, I'm a sheriff, and I am a law and order guy. So understanding the business side of Colorado, we found that Colorado is just not affordable for anybody anymore. And it's really driving businesses out of Colorado. Right now, Colorado, in 23 to 24, we lost almost 32,000 businesses out of Colorado. These are small businesses, people that are trying to make a wage that went out of business. Yep. We found that through polling, 45% of large businesses in Colorado are saying they're not going to reinvest in Colorado. They're going to take their money elsewhere because of the types of issues that are hitting them, from taxes to fees to regulations. They just can't function here. So they're moving their money elsewhere. So as a business owner, I look at that and say, we've got to make a change there. The second piece of it is Colorado's unsafe. We're seeing it all across Colorado. You have a Governor Polis coming out saying, oh no, we're very safe. We have no issues. Come on, we're all seeing it. As a sheriff, I see it every single day. There's not a sheriff in the state that say, oh yeah, we're safer than we were yesterday, 10 years ago, when we had the lowest crime in the United States, to where we're one of the top crimes states in the United States now, with one of the highest sexual assaults on women in the United States. So you can't tell me that we're following that fast. We just had one of the highest car thefts in the United States. So I think that's a problem here, and really it boils down to leadership. I've supported other candidates over the years, and here's what I found. I'm tired of failed politicians. I am sick of following somebody that's been in legislation and tried to do that for years, because a legislator legislates. They don't actually lead through Colorado. They get 6 bills, and then they work on other bills. But what does that do for budgets? What does that do for real Coloradoans? I've just not seen it go anywhere. The other side of it too is being in law enforcement. I've gone up there and I've went shoulder to shoulder with citizens across Colorado for Second Amendment values, stopping safe injection sites. All those issues are really going to impact Colorado. I've already been into. I've been here through every fire. I've been here through the water issues and worked with my commissioners to make sure that we could keep water for ranchers and farmers within our communities. And really, that's an ongoing struggle trying to deal with Department of Natural Resources. So there's all of those issues. And what I've seen in Colorado is there's not been any true leadership at any level over the last 10 years. And if you really want to think about it, when has a democratic value and the democratic rule, one-party rule, made any of your lives better? It just hasn't. Yeah. And it's just politicians at their finest. So that's why I'm running. I'm not a politician. I'm somebody on the ground, and I understand how to swing a hammer, and I understand what people are going through.
So as I'm sure, being in law enforcement, Hispanic values value faith, hard work, and family. And it sounds to me that you align with those values. So we're glad to hear that. I was reading some of your story. Your background in law enforcement is pretty impressive in my book. I've always been supportive of law enforcement. I've had family that has been in law enforcement, including FBI and CIA. So I know what you guys go through. I know that the majority of good citizens support law enforcement, and I am among those. As a veteran, I do have an affinity for law enforcement. Although in my younger years, I wasn't that. But we won't talk about that.
I think Jason knows better than most that a lot of police officers today were street gangsters yesterday. You know, there is a pipeline from people who run the streets to people who clean it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're right. It's all about decisions, right? And we all make decisions in our life, but we also used to have the ability to come back from those decisions.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
to be able to do the right thing, right? Nowadays
That's
with
right.
social media and just so many of the issues out of the state legislature, you know what? I got out of bed yesterday and I probably committed a crime. It's just what we're doing in the state legislature right now, right? Everybody's committed a crime somehow, some way, every single day.
Yeah.
Well, it makes all Americans criminals, and that is unfortunate. And it also makes your jobs as sheriffs much harder, unfortunately.
It
Absolutely.
does. It does.
So walk us through the decision-making process. Obviously, you discussed this with your family and thought about entering the race. Give us a little bit that you can share with us about that process with your family. Were they all supportive at one time, or did some give you a little pushback? Give us just a little bit about how you arrived at the conclusion that you needed to do this, and you had the reasons to do it.
Nobody's ever asked me that before, and I'm glad you did, because I'll be honest, it took a lot of prayer as to doing it, a lot of strength, I think, that probably I had a lot of help with. My family is amazing. So I raised 3 boys, and I learned a long time ago, leadership starts at home. It never starts in an office, and it doesn't start when you run for an office. So I have one son, he's in law enforcement. I have one son that's in security technologies. So he helps develop technologies, and he does softwares. And I have one son that's in the 173rd Airborne. He just got moved to the 101st Airborne, Air Assault. So I tried to raise them when they were young to have a skill, right? I told them, hey, be a framer, go be a mechanic, but have a skill to fall back on. And when you wake up that morning and you're so tired of stuff and all you want to do is complain about something, make the decision to fix it. Don't sit and think that you can't do something about the things that you're complaining about. So one morning I woke up and I found I was complaining a lot about politics, the economy, because it was hurting our businesses across the board, law enforcement, because they were going after law enforcement every single day. And I have a love for those people that put things on the line for others. And really, during COVID, I helped churches stay open because I had a love for churches and the fact that you should be able to pray whenever you want to, and nobody should be able to tell you you can't. And they were trying to shut down businesses, and I went, I've just seen too many politicians decide to make it okay to cross their values to be able to get something accomplished later on. And they call that political capital. So I went, I'm done throwing good money after bad politics. And I was done supporting candidates that I found that just weren't electable. And I think that's the key thing on this race is, do you want somebody that can actually get on stage and go against a Democratic crew, whether how much money they have or not? Trump had way less money than anybody, and he still did it right. And the thing is, I think Colorado votes issues. And I think that I understood the issues better than most candidates because I was ground level, right? I'm swinging a hammer, or I'm building homes, or my wife and I are in a restaurant. I'm washing dishes at night, trying to help her out to, get to that next level of the business. Or I'm kicking in a door on a cartel because they've got a marijuana grow up here, and then they're putting people into the sex slavery issues, or so those are things that meant a lot to me. And I was getting any traction with a politician to help me with those things. And I wasn't getting a traction with the way the legislation was going. So I decided the only way you fix things is you do something about it. The thing I found was that there's only 2 positions that are going to make a change in Colorado immediately. One, it's the Attorney General, and I'm not a lawyer. And 2, it was the governor's position. Anything less than those 2 positions, I didn't feel like you could make enough of an impact to change Colorado directly.
Okay. Nick?
Well, one thing as a young person that has the top of my interest is the fact that many young people can't build a life in America today, and that includes Colorado, very unfortunately. I see the problem as a wage problem. Without income, without jobs, you don't have any ability to get loans, get a house, be part of the economy. And without that base foundation, young people are forced to rely on their family. If they don't have family that they can rely upon, they often become homeless, drug addicts, and it really isn't their fault at all. The system has failed them. So I want to know, how would you address, as the governor of Colorado, the crisis in low wages, many businesses not hiring, and especially here in Colorado, the cost of living? Housing.
Those are two. I'm going to break those down into two questions because it really is two things, right? It's what Bennett calls affordable housing, but what he's calling affordable housing is actually low income housing, which puts people right back into the position they're in. The second is economy. How do you bring back an economy? Well, here's how you bring back an economy. A lot of it's based on, right now for us, it's a power grid, right? They want to bring data centers into Colorado. Colorado is actually a tech state. It's second to maybe Silicon Valley because really you have all of the defense mechanisms that happen out of Colorado Springs, Denver area. So you have bigger corporations coming in. The problem right now is we don't have the power grid able to sustain data centers. We don't have the power grid to be able to sustain any of those higher paying jobs that now are really here in America because we're pushing towards a Green Deal, moving more towards solar and wind. Well, the problem is we've got to push back towards oil and gas, which would bring back way better paying jobs. We've got to bring back towards nuclear energies here in Colorado. And we have to become energy independent. We have to roll back the regulations on businesses to where they can actually afford to. And when I talk about that, my thought is that we need to bring back grants for small businesses that are producers in Colorado. That means farming, ranching, but it also means industry. We have so many forests up here that are being unmitigated, which creates a fire risk for us.
Especially in Teller County.
Yep, especially in my county. Believe me, I see it every day. We have regulated out of business fuel companies that produce fuel because the EPA won't allow them to open in this state, which we have some of the best oil and gas in the United States. We also have stopped logging enterprises from commercial lumber. So we're paying lumber to be brought here from Canada. We're facing tariffs. We're facing all the issues. Here's the problem, though. We have all that here, and we've cut those businesses out. Colorado used to be a producer in commercial lumber. We're not anymore. We're not a producer in anything but mining, farming. But the state's killing it because of the water rights and the issues. The other side is they're wanting to stop mining in Colorado. Well, that's one of the biggest job producers in my county alone, right? They've already done it to oil and gas. They want to do it to mining. So they want to kill the producing. You can't create higher paying jobs without having production capacity within a state and have energy independence. Now, here's the other side of that. Higher wages mean that more companies are coming here and your job fields are expanding. But the other side of it in colleges and whatnot, we're not producing skilled laborers. We need to bring back the capability of having kids going through more of the courses through companies. And as a state, we need to be helping put forward. Look, we don't do things like framing anymore in high school. We don't do things like auto shop in high school. We don't do things like plumbing. Look how hard it is to find it. And if you find skilled labor, you're going to pay a lot of money for them. But we're not teaching our kids to be able to do those things. So your question devolves a lot in that. But here's the other side of it. Affordable housing. If we're able to produce our own lumbers, which will drop the pricing. Right now, the regulations are as why we don't have affordable housing. Because in the state of Colorado, if I build a home, I've either got to go off of a well or a septic system, or I have to go after city water and city sewage. Right now, if you're in Colorado, a city sewage plant, a city water plant has quadrupled in price because the EPA regulation is being pushed on the city. So instead of a $6,500 water tap fee, you're now paying $65,000 to $100,000 on a water tap fee for a city, which means that house, which was really we should be at the $250 to $350 for pricing on affordable housing in Colorado. You can't even touch anything in Colorado for that, not even close. The problem is having attainable housing for people now, you have to lower your building costs. You have to lower your fee costs, and you've got to get rid of the regulations to say I have to have electric charging stations in homes that our power grid won't even assess, because I'm paying another $35,000 for that. Fees, the fees for drilling a well and or getting on city water, the electric building codes now that we're pushing into effect that really are hindering. The other side, we in Colorado are facing what's called the WUI code. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's Wildland Urban Interface Codes. That now is going to drive your insurance through the roof, because the state of Colorado is saying, well, you're in an area that fire could happen in. So now you have to take building materials that are not burnable and put in homes, which are 10 times the cost for a home price. Those are all issues that are driving the prices for homes through the roof and killing the economy at the same time, because it's the same thing that's holding us down from creating those jobs that everybody needs.
Very good. Well, then, Hugo, if I have one follow-up question, because I think it's important as relation to everything that Jason just said, and something very important to our Hispanic community. A lot of us feel that these issues are also tied to illegal immigration. Illegal immigrants, as we know, occupy housing, they occupy jobs, and they compete with Americans, particularly young Americans and unskilled laborers. So that is a big question for us burning here is, Jason, what will you do in relation to economic matters about the illegal immigration crisis?
So I'm probably one of the leading experts on illegal immigration in the state right now. I've been sued for over the last 8 years by the ACLU. And here's what they don't want you to hear me say out loud, is the fact that we need to be giving our criminal illegal aliens to the federal government from prisons, from jails, in a peaceful way to where they're released at those facilities where it's secure. What Colorado's doing right now is that they take those people and they're going to release them back into a community. And then that forces a community after them. And really, it's really about Democrat money, right? That's the best way to go after people and say, well, you're attacking people in our communities. You know, we need money to fight Trump on these things and fight immigration. That's actually not what's happening. What's happening is they're forcing this issue, and we're paying over $40 million a year on housing criminal illegal aliens that have been convicted in the state of violent crimes that are not being released to ICE when they need to be. Now, here's the second piece of that. A strong leader would fly to Washington, D.C., sit down with Mr. Trump, go, listen, I'm going to give you the criminal illegal aliens that are here. But what I really want to do is fast track the immigration processes for people that want to come here and work and labor legally so that we can create more jobs throughout Colorado. That's the dip, because you do have people coming here that want to do it the right way, but it takes up 2 years to do so. And even ICE will tell you they're not happy with the way we do those things. The reason we want that is because that tax money can be helped to be paid back to the state of Colorado to decrease the cost of everything that's flying. Now, I don't agree with the fact that we have a criminal illegal alien defense fund that's being paid Colorado taxpayers, you and I, right? We need to be able to give grants through counties that are able to locate and identify business models and use those tax funds to do so that we're able to make more business in Colorado, for more jobs, for more higher paying folks that need those kind of funds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I've been studying the immigration issue for probably a quarter century now, and there are some things that people don't understand about the immigration issue. Number one, the misnomer that everybody thinks that every illegal is Hispanic. That couldn't be more wrong. Is it a higher percentage? Sure, but not every illegal comes from Mexico. Okay, let's just get that out there. Secondly, the difference between people who want to come here to work legally and maybe return to their home country is never talked about. There's a statistic that came out, I guess, maybe 5-6 years ago that I saw, and it polled, I'm not sure how they did it, but they polled immigrants who were here legally, and they asked them, is it your intent to become a U.S. citizen? And 65% of them said no. Their intent was not to become a U.S. citizen. They wanted the right to work here legally, be able to send money back home, and eventually return home, depending on the industry, the work experience, whatever. But there was a lady by the name of Helen Kriebel. Do you know her? Have you ever heard of her?
No, I've not met her.
Okay. She created a system called the Red Card Solution. And what that was a permittable manner to allow people to come here. They would be issued not a green card, but a red card. And that red card would give them permission to work here legally for a time. And it had an expiration date. And when that happened, they either got to renew it or they returned home. But they were here legally. The government would know who they are. They pay taxes, etc. Okay. So the red card solution would accommodate all of those people who wanted to come here to work, but really had no intention of becoming U.S. citizens. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're a global economy. We can agree with that. People need to fill certain jobs. Industries need different labor. They need different professionals, especially nowadays in the high-tech industry. But
just as Jason was discussing.
But yeah, so the thing was, the key to that program was that the company who wanted to hire a foreigner had to first show that they had interviewed Americans first. In other words, they gave Americans the opportunity first to fill those jobs. And if they could legitimately show that was not happening, that they couldn't find Americans to fill those positions, then they would be able to attract those red card holders to apply for those positions. It's similar to the H-1B visa program, but that one has been really bastardized, if you will. They've really gone overboard. Some companies have taken advantage of it. And it's not really enforced. So, and then the second part of that is if I was king for a day tomorrow, I could solve illegal immigration overnight. You know how I'd do it? I would prosecute every employer who hired an illegal immigrant to the full extent of the law.
Well, that actually is a very good point.
You cut off the spigot. And I'd say this because I'm from Peru, okay? In my home country of Peru, it's a third world country, all right? You cannot go to Peru as an illegal immigrant and be hired by nobody will touch you with a 10-foot pole.
Hugo, I thought you said it was a third world country. That doesn't sound like a third world country to me. Well, at least in that aspect.
They have common sense. They protect their own. And basically, if you're an employer and you hire an illegal, you get fined heavily and or jailed. Okay?
Well, and you think about it, Hugo, every country in the world does that. And I travel through a lot of countries with my company. And the thing about it is, you go to Dubai, this is the way they work it, right? If you go to Mexico, this is the way they want to see it too. You got to have $500,000 in your personal account before you can actually work there and do things sometimes. So it's everywhere. And you're absolutely right. And I have heard of the red card system. And I think it's actually a very viable system. I have a young lady, and I'll tell you a real quick story. She's Panamanian. She came to the United States legally under a work visa. She started working for my office as a sheriff's deputy. She just last year was able to take her oath to be an American citizen, and she did it in my uniform.
Oh, God bless.
In the ACLU wanted to talk about how I'm racist, how I'm all these things. We supported her through that whole process. And when she got done, I sent her to the federal ICE program to be a 287G deputy because I wanted people that understood what somebody would be going through when they came to this country to do it right and what it was look like for them to deal with somebody that was doing it illegally. And I tell you, She's still an amazing person, still works for me. And I've had multiple people come through my office that have done the same thing.
And you know the other dirty little secret about all of this illegal immigration? The poll, the poll that they did with legal immigrants in the United States, Hispanics in particular, 80 to 85% of Hispanics who came here legally and became citizens heavily opposed illegal immigration.
Yeah.
But they want to call people racist. You know, they call me a coconut. If you look at me on the street, I don't look like your typical Hispanic. Okay. And in fact, when I go home in Peru, they always call me the gringo in the family. So, you know,
all in good fun, of course.
Yeah. But they don't, you never hear that from the media that says, wait a minute, Hispanic citizens who are here, came here legally, became citizens, are proud Americans. They oppose illegal immigration more than some white people who are native born to this country.
Well, I think that discusses the political alignment shift that we're seeing, where much of, I guess we could call them white Americans, are remaining in liberal paradigms, while many minority Americans are shifting towards the Republican Party. So I'd actually like to ask Jason about that. What do you think about the shift in American politics in that way? Do you think that it is the same here in Colorado? And more importantly, how do you believe that you could market yourself to Black and Hispanic voters, but also to bring minority communities closer with the majority of Americans?
Well, here's the thing I think about all Americans and all Coloradoans. They want safe streets, right? I mean, how many of those people are tired of just crime? How many tired of having their vehicles broken into? How many times are they tired of being assaulted? Because half the crimes don't even go, talked about to the policing agency. So that's one of the things. Here's the other side. People want to be able to feed their families. They're tired of being used as the excuse for the Democratic Party on why you should be I think that's happening too, right? So I think there's more and more people understanding that they're losing their Second Amendment rights. They're losing, when you wake up and you tell me that it's okay to create 700 new bills, and honestly, none of us know how to deal with them, right? These bills are going to affect us from last year or the year prior even. And even attorneys are telling us they don't even know how. So how are the common man supposed to figure out what to do in life to do it right? I think people are starting to see the Republican values of conservatism as a direction to go to, right? Fiscal conservatism. You can't keep writing a check for everything, and then because you're working hard, you're paying tax dollars. And if you're doing that, you're tired of watching your money be going to people that aren't working, aren't doing anything. You're tired of if you live inner city of any Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, you're tired of stepping over people downtown because they're behavioral health issues. And here's the thing. We know the state of Colorado is not helping with behavioral health issues. We know that it's drugs and that people are having to self-medicate because their insurances won't allow them to have that. You're losing your insurance. You're paying 4 times any other state now for your car insurances. You're losing your home insurances in most of Colorado because insurance companies don't want to be here anymore because the state of Colorado has put so many issues towards them. You're losing your state Pinnacle insurance, which is your retirement system, because the state of Colorado right now wants to take it away, keep the money, repay all their loans, and make you pay more money for Pinnacle insurance. And you as a teacher or you as a state worker, guess what? You're going to be hung out to dry with a system they're moving to a privatization piece. And you're losing it. You're in a home where you're having to help family member that's dependent on medical care and you be a medical provider to them because no one else is going to treat them the same. And Colorado's saying they're going to cut that cost to you being the provider to them. That's going to hit a lot of families. The other side of it too is Colorado was working with prescription drug companies and they're not cutting the costs on those things. And prescription drug companies are forcing you to buy dollar medication where you may have paid $1,500 or $15 the month before. I got people in my own office that are dealing with that. So those are all issues. And the sad part is nobody in leadership in Colorado is looking at how to fix that. I think young people right now are looking at the issues that they are facing when they're trying to have a family, they're trying to make it as parents, and people are telling them, you can't do what you need to do for your children. We, the state, will tell you how to treat your children. That's an issue for all of us throughout Colorado. I raised 3 boys.
Talk
I
about
couldn't
red
imagine
flags.
somebody
That's a
telling me
big
what
red
to do.
flag for Hispanic families.
Yep.
Don't talk about taking away your children.
Oh yeah, we
You
don't
don't
like
mess with our
that.
kids. Yeah,
That
absolutely.
those are fighting words. Let's fast forward a minute, okay? It's November 2026, and we have a Governor Mikesell.
Yeah.
All right. So what would be your plan and assuming that we still have heavy Democrat majorities in the legislature, how does a Governor Mikesell plan to navigate those waters with regards to the corrupt, and these are my words, the corrupt and runaway left-wing legislature? How would the governor deal with that, and what would be your plan?
Yeah, so I call it stop. Here's the bigger issue. I think there's 2 parts to that, right? So what a governor can control is your budget and then your committee members that sit on committees. So, and I'm going to get to the legislation as a note too, because it has a piece to education that I think most people. So as a governor, if I'm going to fix energy, I'm going to change the PUC. I'm going to change the committee that strategically identifies what we're doing with power because it's so bad. The second piece is CPW. With the amount of money that they're funneling to different programs that aren't even part of CPW or Colorado Parks, I'm going to split to Division of Wildlife like it used to be, and Colorado Parks, the parks that are there. The reason why I talk about those issues is you have a highway department that's out of control for crumbling infrastructure, right? And you have a legislature over here saying, hey, we're going to continue making these bills and we're going to continue doing these things. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So I'm going to change who sits on the highway department's boards, and I'm going to remove them and put people in there that can look at contracts and negotiate contracts much better than what are being done now. So we actually have good roads throughout Colorado, not just I-70 and I-25. The legislative body, because of that, right? Those are the areas where the money gets funneled, and those are the people that get to identify how to funnel the monies. Those are the people that get to come in and actually get in front of the legislative body and talk about those issues and identify to the budget committees what it is. And a governor can allow them to speak as the budgetary issues in front of the legislative body. That's what a governor can do. Secondly, a governor actually can also educate the community on how dumb some of these bills are, right? If a true governor is a real leader, you go down to the Senate floor and the House floor and you go, don't waste your time with any more gun bills because I'm not going to pass it. Try to find a way to fix the highways this year. I'm going to pass bills that want to fix the highways because not all Democrats have bad ideas about things. So you have some pretty good ideas about stuff. But the thing about it is you need a leader that can identify which ones and how's it going to affect Coloradoans. But at the same time, be able to educate Coloradoans to what progressive Democrats are coming out with on bills that are going to cost you everything in taxes. That are going to increase your taxes across the board. Somebody needs to educate you, because if you look across the board for the last legislation, when does Governor Polis ever come out and said, hey, Second Amendment folks, we're going to take your guns away from you. We're not going to allow you to purchase firearms. And I'm just saying, I'm not really a part of that, but I'm going to sign the bill, right? When the governor going to come out and say, listen, don't even attempt to put that on my desk. And instead of 700 bills, let's just have 50 bills that are actually worthwhile. Because if you go over this 700 or 150 bills, I'm going to veto every single one of them just because of the cost to Colorado to stop the bleed from occurring. So you have to understand how the state of Colorado works. You have to look at it as a CEO and not think I can only do what the legislative body thinks. I mean, candidates are talking about that. I can only do what the legislator says. Well, that's not true. You control the finite details to budget pieces. You control the finite details to boards. You control really the direction of the state of Colorado by explaining to people what your direction is on getting us back on track. You can meet and create groups to meet with the legislative body with those things.
And that's, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's the message that needs to be put out to the voters in the primary and in the general, and that is that because people have this mentality, they think I asked that question for a reason, because this is how people think. They say, well, okay, we elect the Republican governor, but we've got a runaway left-wing legislature. How is he going to get anything done? And that's why I wanted you to articulate some of the things that a governor can do, because a lot of people don't understand that, how it works. You do have, number one, the bully pulpit, but you also have the ability to change some of those bureaucracies, if you will, that are out there that are under the control of the governor. And then, like you said, you can push back against these bad legislators and tell them, don't send me that stuff. It's kind of that's very Trumpian of you. don't send me stuff that I'm not gonna like, because I'm not gonna sign it.
Well, don't send me crap.
Well, I think that's a brilliant. I think that's a brilliant point, because I think people often forget that politics is a social relationship, and part of that is communicating with the Democrats with strength. You know, they say reach across the aisle. Sometimes that's to grab hands, and sometimes that's to set boundaries.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're right. And that's setting boundaries. Yeah.
We might be able to leak a little secret here. Not really a secret, but my compadre here is running for a House seat. In
Senate seat, actually. But yes.
Senate. Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I did not know my co-host would bring that up here, but I'm honestly flattered, and I very much appreciate the shout out, Hugo. Thank you so much.
Yep. So,
but it just goes to show, I want to tell you, Jason, many people like yourself have been models and mentors in this state. We believe that this state has an amazing access of young people and their older mentors, and that is one reason we are glad to have you on the show tonight.
Well, I appreciate it.
And I can't let you go without getting into this story, because it intrigued me. At Saturday's meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard you say something about the rule in the state that law enforcement can't cooperate with ICE, and that you found a way around that and just deputized all your deputies to be ICE agents. Did I get that right?
Well, to some degree. So my attorney calls it path of least resistance, is what I'm supposed to say, instead of getting around things nowadays. So when initially it happened, the ACLU approached me saying, "Are you going to play ball with us, or are you going to go against us, and we're going to sue you tomorrow?" So I called ICE that day. I think I signed up with ICE, and I called them back and said, "Well, I guess you're going to sue me and pack a lunch, because it's going to be a long one." That's kind of my personality. I just don't like being bullied. And then, so they did. They sure enough sued me. So we spent multiple years in court. I won pretty much every round of it until it went back to state court. And then what they did was, on the last round, the ACLU tried to say that I had violated the laws, which I didn't. And actually, we had won again. And it was kind of a draw. The ACLU won a little bit, but I still won my right to protect my community programs. So under the ICE authority, I do have people that work in my jail. And what we did was we had a system, which should still be in play. It needs to be, where they would work as a federal agent once somebody identified that they were from another country and that they were here illegally and ICE wanted them. We would hold them as a detainer hold then, based on the fact they were an ICE agent, and they have to go to school for it. And then they would be released to ICE custody inside the jail, which is the safest place to do so. And these are pretty violent suspects of different issues. And they're wanted from all over the United States. And I had one person that was even wanted in Mexico for a crime they did. So these aren't your nice people. So the ACLU at that point decided they couldn't beat me in court. So what they did was they went ahead and got a hold of the Democratic legislative body, and they ran this last bill. So I went up and fought it. They got it passed. So now we're in a holding pattern. We can't assist ICE with these things until the federal court case gets resolved. Now, the one thing I will tell you is, if ICE has a criminal investigation we will assist them with a criminal investigation, because that is still permissible, even though it's frowned at. And you may have Weiser sue you as a deputy in the state of Colorado. We will still assist them with a federal investigation for crimes.
Okay. So, the way, how do you see that? Is it a law or is it a rule that they put out that
It's
says
a law.
that law enforcement? It's a law. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's in the Constitution now.
It's not in the Constitution because it didn't go through the voters. It was done by a legislative body, right? So it's not been placed in the Colorado Constitution because it has to go through the voter approval for that. And there's no way voters are going to approve that. I think voters in Colorado, and I believe that there was a petition that was circulated that may have enough signatures to put it on the ballot.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Is there a ballot initiative coming up that would completely undo this handcuffing of law enforcement in Colorado?
Yeah, I believe so. In fact, last year I wrote a bill for Mark Baisley that would overturn that bill, and I used Democrat in it, and they still didn't like it. So,
okay. So, coming up on the close of the hour, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the what's known as the federal overreach and state sovereignty. How would you push back against federal mandates that violate states' rights or individual freedoms? Should a governor act as a constitutional check on federal power?
Well, here, I think before that happens, real leaders would fly to DC and sit down and have those conversations about what it is and what it means. Mm-hmm. Right now, you have several of them that are going to face Colorado. You have one on water rights, right? If we're having a really dry year right now. 2 years ago, when we had all the water that was dried up in Colorado, you have a state compact that happened in 1922. So since 1922, there's a water compact that says that we have to give our water to Kansas, California, all these other states. Nobody has ever renegotiated that compact since 1922 in the state of Colorado. Here's the problem. If you remember, at the time, they were going to force Colorado to, by federal law, to release our water to these other states, even though we didn't have the water to release. The problem was you had a Governor Polis that never took steps to fly to DC to sit down with the president and go, we don't have the water to give you. And if we give you that water strategically, we can't fight our fires. And if we can't fight our fires, you're never going to have water because it's going to silt up our lakes and streams. And the fact is that right now, we can't do our production for produce and ranching throughout the state of Colorado, which is hurting our economies. So I think before you go into those issues, you have to look at what are we doing to sit down with somebody and have these discussions prior to it. If it's, and here's where we go back and forth. If it's the immigration issues, why wouldn't someone like the governor go sit down with the president, because that president's getting ready to cut $25 billion from the Colorado state budget because we're not working with ICE, right? What people don't realize is that is going to affect forest fires in the state of Colorado because Colorado doesn't have assets. We use Forest Service assets. What happens if they cut off all of that to the state of Colorado? Medicaid. Most of the Medicaid through the state is actually on federal monies. So the state decide to say, no, I'm not going to do something because of state sovereignty, then what happens? But the state has opened it to counties right now by telling counties, well, unless you get on board, we're not going to fund you. Well, is that any different from what the state's doing to the federal at this point? So there's a lot of leadership that's just lacking. And I think really those need to be discussions before they go to law and they now face legal issues. And those are negotiations. That's what CEOs do, right? I work with everybody. It doesn't matter to me. But at the same time, as a sheriff, I work with everybody to get everybody to work together on those things. Sometimes as a federal government, I've had to fly to DC and have those discussions with the Trump organization the last time. But that's true leadership that you're just not seeing in Colorado. And I hope that answers your question.
Okay. So walk us through day one as governor. What would be your first 3 executive orders?
Well, one is we're going to stop releasing parolees and probation people back onto the streets if they have multiple convictions while they're under parole or probation. We have people now that have been released on 18 different charges where they're facing county charges on parole. They don't want to put back in prison. So the crime rate in the state of Colorado by 40% within the first 6 months. I know that's an easy one, right? Secondly, I'm going to meet with the insurance companies to sit down with a coalition of folks to have a discussion about how do we fix these issues for insurances for people across the state of Colorado, from housing to medical pieces, right? The other side, economy. I'm going to sit down with your large nuclear power plant folks, your gas and oil companies, and we're going to look at an emergency order on how do we stabilize Colorado's energy grid immediately so that we can the economy. I'm also going to a group that of business owners across Colorado to have those discussions on what do we need to deregulate to force more businesses to be able to grow within Colorado. And how do we do that immediately? Education. I plan on forcing the educational bodies throughout Colorado to work more with folks that are framing to put kids into the ability to have some type of a skill immediate forces. I'm going to return local control back to local governments so that you have a vote on your city councils and you have votes within your county governments that mean more again by releasing that back to them. Highway infrastructure. I plan on having counties identify their major needs on highways across Colorado immediately. And I'm going to change the UC and I'm changing out the PC Colorado so that we can get things accomplished. Okay. That those I'm going to look at immediately.
Okay. All right. Well, we're coming up at the close, so we're going to give you 1 minute for a closing statement, whatever message you'd like to give to the audience.
Well, my name's Jason Mikesell. I'm running for governor. You can find me at mikesell4gov.com. I will tell you this. Be careful on the candidates you're looking at, right? Make sure they say they've done and what they can do. And make sure that the things that they're saying aren't just giving you the belief that they can do something that they can't do when they get in office. And know that I'm the only one. If you're going to develop a candidate to run in Colorado against Bennett and Weiser, I'm the only candidate for the 2 major issues for business, in economy and driving economies, and crime that can actually walk away as a Republican and win the state through independent and unaffiliated voters.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been very interesting, one of our better interviews, and we want to wish you the best on the campaign trail. We'll be watching through the assembly. Oh, are you going through the assembly or are you petitioning?
I'm going through the assembly. I believe that's the process that Republicans should go through.
All right. Well, we'll see you there. I'm a delegate, so I'll be there.
Very nice.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Jason, very much.
The best. God bless.
God bless
you,
sir.
You guys
Thank
have a great. Bye-bye.
Take care. And that was Jason Mikesell, everybody. He is running for governor, and you guys actually have now, for the first time on Hispanic Patriot Podcast, been introduced to him. Maybe you will see him again.
Yep. So, like I said, we've got some impressive candidates. We hope for a good primary that's focused on the viable candidates, and no disrespect to the others who are running, but they need to run for some other offices.
It's very true. And if you want to learn more about a viable candidate coming up potentially next week, possibly, please tune in at the usual time to learn more about your intrepid co-host and his crazy campaign to take down Tony.
Yes, I'm going to work up a great interview.
Well, Hugo's going to be interviewing, so he's not going to pull any punches. He has every reason to go hardcore, and that's exactly what I want him to do, because I'm not afraid of anything, and neither are most of our audience. Why don't you become one today and subscribe and like and always watch us?
Yep. And I hear the music. in the background.
So do I. And you know what that means, Hugo?
Means
Means it's time to say adios.
don't forget, hit like, subscribe, donate.
Yes, and check out the links below.
Join us next week, same time, same back channel.
Absolutely. We love to see you folks.